Hi everybody, this is Alex. I've been doing slate repairs and roof repairs in general for the last 16 years for the same company. I work on a lot of historic houses. This house was built in 1850. A co-worker of mine found a slate that he believed said 1930 something on it. This is a mansard roof or a slate wall, so there's a good possibility that this wall could technically be that old. We recently replaced the roof underneath of it. To do that, you have to remove so many courses of slate or wall material to get up high enough for snow loads. I live in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. It's nothing for us to get 2-3 feet at a time in the winter, so we got to factor all that in. Got to be careful when you remove the slate. Slate are heavy, they're kind of expensive, but I don't feel like carrying up any slate that I don't have to. So I do my best to remove them intact in one piece as I can, put them off to the side, do my roofing, and then use the same slate, if they're in good shape, to fill them back in. This isn't necessarily an instructional video, but to give you a little bit of insight on what it takes or what's involved in the do slate repair. It's really not that complicated. There's 2 nails that hold the slate. All roofing and building products are similar. There's a course. Every row is a course. In this instance, course measures 7 to 7.5 inches. It kind of varies. Throughout the years, these slate have gotten repaired and replaced, and nails loosen up. So you do your best to try to keep it straight. It's more than just aesthetics. A slate is supposed to go and cover 2 courses. For every course you see, it goes behind the course above it and 1 to 3 inches, ideally 3 inches higher than the 3rd course that you see. This way, the water keys or the water joints or in between each slate has some product in there. It's not compromised. So there you have it. But also, when I do any type of wall material going down, I don't put it in direct contact with the lower roof. It's best to leave it elevated for debris and water to clearly flush out. Right here I'm going about 2-3 inches high. I have more than 10 inches going up the wall. Because of that, I don't have to worry about filling in any undercourse slate. All those water keys or joints are covered. If there's ever an area that I feel it's too close, you have to fill in a slate. So, sometimes when you're filling in above it, I do blind nailing. What blind nailing is, okay, let's see if I scribe it. That gives me my roof angle. I cut it. I try to keep it consistent on the height of the slate. So that's just a loose, rough guide. Okay, as you see here, we're probably about, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 inches above the roof. I had scrap product I laid down on the roofing. I don't want it to get hurt. Slate's very sharp, and it could dig in and cut into the lower roof, making it very difficult to see. So this is your typical slate fill-in. Now, when you get to the next slate above it, okay, there we go. I marked my 7.5 inch. You slide this slate in. Sometimes, hey, if it's best when you remove a slate, if it breaks, pull the broken piece out. It'll fight you. Right here, I found that the slate wasn't properly removed in there. As you can see, I'm digging out some slate to get to this piece that was left behind. And that'll really fight you. You don't want to go jamming a slate in there to make it fit. So typically what you would have is in that water key, that little joint, you take your punch, you'd punch a hole in there, sink the nail, but kind of flush. Don't kill the nail, just, hang the slate. Put two nail holes in there if it's racking and it's swinging back and forth like a pendulum. Then what you do in the blind nail, as I call it, is you slide a piece of metal in there, either aluminum or copper. You slide it behind that course of slate, covering the nail, so this way you don't have an exposed nail. Exposed nails are the worst. They'll always come back and bite you in the backside later. Whether it be rust or, water just filter through throughout the years. Even if you caulk it, eventually it'll rear its ugly head. So, here we are. I'm trying to maintain that line. And I'm also trying to line up with the slate above it. These slate are kind of random. If you were to look at the overall wall, they shift to the left and right almost 3/4 of an inch. So you do your best to try to make it look good. But it's kind of staggered like a brick. As you can see in the illustration, the slate I'm installing now, the one to the far left is up almost 3 inches higher than it. So below that line that you see below the slate I'm installing, that's 100% covered. You don't have to worry about water ever filtering in there. Right there I'm showing the wall piece going up, and as you can see, I don't have to worry about filling in the slate behind there. That ensures my water line's fine. Again, I scribe the mark, but I also have to scribe the top because I don't want too much slate above there because it creates another top. So I come up with a line. I roughly cut it by eye. Sometimes if it's too big or, I'll scribe another line. Right here you see the chalk line. Because I came from the left and I came from the right, filling in, I want a uniformed course. I want it to line up as close as possible so that everything, looks good. Functioning is the most important key to it, but there's no reason why it can't look good and function at the same time. That being said, I'm not here or getting paid to rebuild the wall. So I remove as many slate as need be. On this side here, unfortunately, I didn't remove this slate, and a lot more came out than I would have liked. So I have to fill them back in. I only need to remove enough of slate to fill that rubber that goes up the wall. So 2 courses of slate would have been more than enough to accomplish. This is on rough cut lumber or barn board, so there's a lot of gaps in between the boards. As you can see, I'm punching my own nail holes because the manufactured nail holes, for whatever reason, they're tending to line up directly in between the board. So you want to be gentle with these slate because you can see the gap in between the top and the lower slate, and when you go to sink the nail, you just want it to hang. You want it to be kind of flush and tight to the wall, but you don't want to push it in and put too much stress onto it. Especially these slate. These slate we had at the shop They're the right size, but they're different than what was there. They're a ribbon slate. They have a natural grain to it, and sometimes they're difficult to work with. They fracture really easy. So you got to be careful with them. I do a lot of taps. You know, you want a long enough nail to make good penetration into the wood. I usually use 1.5 to 1.75 inches. Okay, see, here's a good example. So I scribe the bottom, and I put a scribe on the course next to it so that I know I have to remove 3 inches more than the line I scribe. I take my punch, I punch a hole in the slate, it blows the backside out like a bullet, and then I nail it in. Usually when I'm nailing in the water lines, I usually set the nail the best I can with my hammer just to get it started. Then I finish it off with the punch. If you can, use the back side of the punch because it's wider to tap the nail head in. And then as you get closer, you finish it off with the point. Also, sometimes if the slate are tight together like this, I'll take my hammer claw and I will kind of chisel or groove out a little area for my nail head to go in. Just makes life easier. That, and to be honest with you, you can't see it. Here, I'm checking to make sure my courses are lining up pretty good. As you can see there, I must have nailed that slate too tight. This is a very slow-moving process. It would be a lot easier just to start fresh. Mark your slate, whatever your exposure is, 7, 8, 10 inches. Mark them individually on the slate, or chalk your course line to correspond with the top of the slate. Which, once you get started, it's whatever your course is. Like that line right there, that reference line, it would just be 7 inches higher than the last one. But this is the video here is sped up to 4 times the speed. Earlier, I think it was 8 times speed, something like that. This was a almost all day process for me. I was doing this while my coworker was wrapping up some other projects on the job site. So it's not a difficult job. It can be frustrating until you get a good technique down or whatever. And you start breaking slate or whatever. It could definitely get really frustrating. You just have to get over it. It's not for everybody. Slate repair's not for everybody. Some people aren't good at it, or they just shouldn't be doing it. So, if you get frustrated easily, or you're breaking too many slate, just step back from the situation. It's not the end of the world. You don't want to be. They're 3 to 5 pounds a piece. You don't want to be carrying up too many of them. If anything, carrying up the slate makes you better. If you have a helper or somebody like that to carry up your slate, you can be a slob and break, 10, 20, 50 slate and not be too concerned about it or whatever. But if you got to keep making trips up and down, grabbing 8 to 10, these are smaller slate. They're 8 by 16. So you could easily grab 10 to 20 of these. But yeah, it could get very frustrating. So, especially when you're carrying them. All that aside, though, I do quite a few slate repairs in a year. It seems like at the company I work for, everything goes in threes. It's three slate repair jobs, it's three gutter guard jobs, it's three chimney flashing jobs, three silver coating jobs. It just it just seems like that's the way it rolls uh, at my place of employment. So I learned to love it. But that being said, you can make really good money doing this. It's not that difficult, but it's a specialized field. Not a lot of people like doing this, and I don't really know why. Um, I do a lot of work in historic districts, and I'm constantly reminded that people don't do this that often. I'll be working on a job and I have people walking down the street telling me they didn't think anybody did slate repair anymore. And I would chuckle and get a laugh, and tell them, I do it I do it all the time. But it's true, I mean, I get around a lot. Work sends me from all over New Jersey and a lot of Pennsylvania, and I see a lot of contractors and repairmen. I don't see too many people in my trade doing this, and I don't understand why. I mean, it pays really well. Um, if you spend $3 to $5 on a slate, and you get $25 to $50 to repair a slate, there's killer money in it. You know, one of my earliest handyman jobs was a slate repair because not too many people do it. And I believe I did, I don't know, 70 slate in 10 hours. And I charged, I don't know, 1,200 bucks or something like that. That was one of my first $1,000 a day jobs that I profited $1,000 a day. I made $100 an hour and I was ecstatic. That was the bar I had set for myself and I nailed it. And a lot of these slate repairs are like that for me. So, like I said, I enjoy it. A lot of times I could walk the roof. I have a lot of practice and experience in it. You have to walk very lightly. You can't go stomping around. You have to know where to place your feet. This is solid sheeting, so it's not that difficult to nail to. But when you're nailing on the lats, you're limited to where you could nail and not nail. So, there we have it. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one, YouTube. I'm going to roll this one out. Sorry it's too long. I try to speed it up the best I can. But it's a long process. Hopefully I'll do a more in-depth video. It's kind of limited on my production. I didn't have my tripod. You know what? That's it. I'm going to have to get a tripod for the work truck. You, the audience, are worth it. So, take care.